Hello and welcome to another Israeli Frenemies, the only news show that in which right and left in Israel are crashing with each other, but in a good and nice way. It's good to be back. I was on a short vacation. Hi, Ari Fuld. Good to be back on the same screen with you.
I hope it was a relaxing vacation.
Yeah, it was very relaxing. I heard Yariv Oppenheimer was here last week.
I think we had a good show. It was a good show.
Yeah, well, I'll try to catch up. And let's just get right to the issues, yeah.
This week we see Donald Trump trying to jumpstart again a peace process in Israel, sending his son-in-law and the Middle East messenger here, Jared Kushner, over talking about a possibility of jumpstarting a peace process again. You know, the statement that he made was the president really wants to see peace in the area. Well, I think we all want to see peace in the area. The question is, what is under that statement?
Honestly, you know, if in the first days of the Trump presidency, which looks ages ago, although it was, you know, a few months ago, I had a kind of optimistic view about that, just because, you know, if a president and that has so much weight here in the ruling party, in the ruling camp in Israel, and definitely has leverage vis-a-vis the Palestinians and the Arab states, maybe that could have produced something. But I must say that hearing Donald Trump, you know, yesterday with his speech about, the day before yesterday, it doesn't matter for our viewers, his speech about how the media distorts what he has to say, and with key American experts say this guy is not fit to be president, and there are bets just when he's going to be impeached. I must say that he has so much on his plate right now that I really, really doubt that such a president with such a heavy burden and everything that happened in Charlottesville and everything, that he will be able to put the presidential weight that is needed to promote a peace plan here. I'm all for it. I'm happy that Jared Kushner is here, that Jason Greenblatt, that in the past in our former shows, I said that he does do at least new stuff in this peace-making efforts. I'm really, really doubtful that something will come out of it.
I'll tell you, when it comes to Donald Trump, I think it's pretty clear the press is pretty biased. I mean, again, let's put Donald Trump aside for a second. Really, good, bad, really, but the press is they've always been biased. You know, I think that as a Jew, both of us as Jews, I think Billy Joel did it great this week, by the way. Look, the neo-Nazis and the KKK have to be ousted. And we'll talk about it a little bit later on in the show. His hesitation, I'll call it, was very bad. No matter what side of the political map you're on, he did, though, very, very strongly fix it, and it was very clear. Again, I'm not going to compare it. In Obama, he spoke out against the KKK and the Nazis as clearly as possible.
Well, Obama didn't need to correct anything.
No, he did, because he never said radical Islamic terrorism. But again, I don't want to go into Obama right now.
Okay.
No, I'm saying those were people who were, again, talking about destroying.
I'm sure that the KKK is not.
But of course they are. Both of them want to destroy someone. But I don't want to get into the
no, but
the point is,
definitely didn't support Obama.
No, but the point is that, well, he doesn't support the KKK either. But the point is that he did correct it, and there was a little bit of a silent kind of thing. They didn't really report that so much. So I understand where he's coming from. That being said, I don't think that's the problem for peace. I think the problem, if you know, Jared's going to come to the Middle East and say, I have a great plan for the peace process, the first thing he has to do is change the radical Islamic culture. In other words, until we see our people around our area say, you know what, we're not into the culture, forget us about not letting women drive anymore. We're not in the culture of throwing homosexuals off roofs, whether I agree with it or not.
Hold on.
So I think they have to change a culture.
The Palestinians, women are driving.
No.
The Palestinian women ministers.
Well, we know that in, for instance, in Gaza,
Saudi Arabia.
No, we know that in Gaza, for example, the rights are not freedom. We know that in the PA-controlled areas, Bethlehem, for instance, used to be 76% Christian. It's 11% today. So there is a problem with culture, and this is not with Israel. So unless someone's going to change that culture, in other words, we see.
Are you sure the Christians in Bethlehem didn't leave also because they have an option, being Christians in communities around the world and living under an Israeli occupation where there's a huge wall surrounding Bethlehem. Maybe that's the reason they left?
Well, that would have been true if they would have left for 50 years beforehand, but as soon as the PA took over, that's when the numbers dropped.
No, but that's when the wall came
No, that's not when the
to
wall
be
came
built.
much later. When the PA took over, it's when they dropped. But again, the point is, we know the incitement that comes out. In other words, I don't think we disagree with it. Rad Saleh, we see the incitement coming out of the PA, coming out of their population. If peace is going to come, ever, land or not land, there's got to be a culture change. So unless Jared's saying, you know what, we're going to go into the PA schools and we're going to say you cannot incite violence anymore.
I disagree. You know, the peace, I mean, I hope there'll be a warm peace between us and the Palestinians when the day comes, Bezrat Hashem, inshallah, with God's help, whatever you want to say it. I hope there'll be a warm peace between us and the Palestinians. But the peace I'm talking about right now is a divorce. It's not a marriage. And I don't think that we need to tell the Palestinians how their culture is going to look like, how their practices are going to look like. We need to have a Palestinian state next to Israel in order to save Israel. Therefore, this solution is not about imposing them any culture change or anything like that. We need to have security.
No, but I'm not imposing culture. I'm not saying I'm imposing culture. The culture of desiring to destroy Israel or kill Jews or getting money to kill Jews.
No, if you make peace,
no, before that, you can't. No, if someone's saying I'm going to murder you, you don't say, well, if we make peace, they'll stop wanting. You have to stop wanting to murder us.
Abu Mazen, the Palestinian president, doesn't say he wants to murder you.
Of course he does.
Actually, he says that he's willing to have a Palestinian state on 22% of the greater Israel.
But he won't recognize a Jewish one.
Or Palestine.
But he won't recognize a Jewish one.
I don't need Abu Mazen's recognition. I don't need Jordan's recognition, which we didn't have. I don't need Egypt's recognition, which Begin didn't say. I want,
who you are.
In order to save Israel
right.
as a Jewish homeland and a democratic state, you need to have a Palestinian state next to Israel.
You don't need to have a Palestinian state next to you. You don't have to. In fact, every time we made concessions to the Arabs, the terrorism went up 30%.
Okay, so Netanyahu went to Russia, to an area where President Putin is having his summer vacation in Sochi, and they spoke about, Netanyahu brought to the table his concerns about Iranian presence in post-war Syria, post-Daesh Syria, post-ISIS Syria, and specifically Iran's and its emissaries, I guess, Hezbollah.
Terrorist messengers, whatever it might be.
Adjacent to the Israeli border with Syria. In order for us to have a debate, because I'm sure that we both agree that Netanyahu is right. We shouldn't have.
I hope so.
We shouldn't have Iran, which we probably have disagreements about the nuclear agreement, but we both agree that Iran is not a friend of Israel. And therefore, we don't need neither the Hezbollah nor Iran itself on our borders. I would be a bit cynical, if I may. And I feel that, Putin, I don't think, he heard Netanyahu. There were nice photo ops, but I'm not sure
what he said behind doors, we don't know.
We don't know, but I don't think Putin is, although he respects Netanyahu for sure and respects the state of Israel, but, as always, Putin has only Putin's and Russia's interest the way he sees it. I do think that it was very important for Netanyahu because of his problems back home. I mean, to present himself as a world leader that meets with the strongest men right now, and to raise those concerns. And Iran is always a winning card for Netanyahu. I don't think that will change anything.
So I think, Uri, listen, I understand politics are important. I get that. But I think, honestly, again, I'm not a Bibi fan, a Bibi Nick. I'm a Bibi fan. I'm not a Bibi Nick. I think Netanyahu probably really does care about Israel. I do.
Oh, for sure.
And I think that when he's going to Putin to discuss Iran, I think he's really discussing Iran. I don't think he's talking about the things that are going on at home. I really think he puts that in his back pocket. I think Iran is a real serious enemy, which we agree on. I think we are being threatened by many, many, many hundreds of millions of people around us who don't want us alive. And what I say to people a lot is in the world, when diplomacy takes over morality, things go sour. We saw in the Holocaust with us. In other words, the world said we can't get involved. We have to stay neutral. I think Netanyahu realizes a threat, and Putin, and America as well, whoever's president, they're playing the diplomatic game. We can't afford that diplomatic game. I think when Netanyahu won, if I had to guess, he said to Putin, listen, I know you had a ceasefire right now. I got that. I'm telling you right now, if the Iranians use that ceasefire to fill up the void with their emissaries, we are going to attack them. And the funny thing is, Putin was like, yeah, okay. Like, he didn't even react. There was no reaction from him.
No, because a reaction from him would, in any direction, would,
right, of course.
Would,
but I think that Netanyahu honestly does care. And there's a security issue here. Understand, if ISIS gets kicked out of the area, there's a void. And many times when there's a void in the radical Islamic regimes, the person who comes in was not necessarily better than the person before.
Yeah, but
again, Iran, they don't hide their
right,
disdain for Israel. So the question is, what do you do? What do we do if we start seeing bases, piling up in Lebanon, Iranian bases?
But as long as Putin is concerned, he put all his cards in the Assad on the Assad table, and Assad right now became totally dependent both on Russia and on Iran. And that's the axis right now that is active in Syria.
Diplomacy. That's exactly what I was talking
It's
about.
not diplomacy.
No,
it's
in
about.
other words, Russia is now dealing with both those fronts.
I don't think that Russia is concerned or Putin is concerned about morality that much.
No, of course. That's what I'm saying.
To be
none. No, I'm saying nothing. It's all diplomacy. It's not
diplomacy
morality.
can serve morality many times. It's not like
not in
diplomacy
this
in
case. Right, I
itself.
agree with you, 100%.
In itself is a bad thing.
Of course.
We always prefer. I hope that we always prefer diplomacy rather than bloodshed.
No.
As long as we can prevent bloodshed, it's better to have diplomacy.
If diplomacy is serving truth and real peace, then yes. But if diplomacy is serving evil people, then I'd rather have war.
So, but Putin doesn't care. I mean,
I know that. I agree with you.
that
That's the problem. Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
I for sure he knows that Netanyahu doesn't want Iran to be there. I really doubt, and here where again I'm not sure that Netanyahu will be able to attack what he sees as an Iranian presence, as long as Russia would have its defense over that.
Israel doesn't always attack with an Israeli flag going up. We know that. So what I'm saying.
Okay, that's a different story. But if we're talking about a real,
I don't think he's talking.
Air bombing and stuff like that on an Iranian basis, that won't work.
Although we did that in Iraq, we've done that in Syria before.
Right, but not when Russian troops are there.
Yeah, I don't think that's what Netanyahu. He's saying, look, if the Iranians start showing their faces and their feet on grounds where they don't belong in because ISIS left the void.
They already have.
Right, but they don't have control yet. But if they get control, Netanyahu's making it very clear, I think, Putin, in a very diplomatic way, that will not happen. But again, I think it goes back to what I said. The idea is, there's this culture. They're living in Iran. What do you want from us? Leave it alone. Live your lives. Enjoy. And I don't. By the way, I don't think the majority of people in Iran believe in what the leaders are. I don't know, but I don't think. I think that Iran has a history of being positive to the Jews at certain times.
It's not even about Jews. About their own freedom. And you see that, at the end of the day, Iran, and maybe it's one of the next shows, we can even bring an expert or something like that. Iran is a divided political arena. The hardliners, which control it's called the Revolutionary Guard, they're controlling the military.
Everything,
and they are very hostile to Israel because it's part of their ideology and also their strength, because that's when they have a pretext to continue and develop the military, are different than the Rouhani, the president.
Наши государства сотрудничают в рамках форума стран-экспортеров газа, координируют усилия для стабилизации мировых рынков нефти.
This week we found out some very, very disturbing news. The PA, which is the government, I guess, that's in charge of the areas, the Palestinian-controlled areas, the numbers that I've seen inside, which again, I haven't been able to confirm myself, talking about 50% of the budget of the PA is going to pay to terrorist families. Now, I just want to make something very clear. They're not paying in terms of, well, they're poor and they need help, survive. They're paying as prize money. And again, the problem is this is not Hamas. This is the PA. These are the moderates. The bigger problem is world funding is going to them. The same thing when it went to Gaza originally, where over $1 billion was used to dig tunnels and build missiles. Right now, the PA, who are the moderates, who are Israel's quote-unquote peace partners, are giving hundreds of millions of dollars over to terrorist families as a prize for their children, whoever took out the terrorist attack. And again, I think I go back to what I said before. This is the culture that I'm talking about. Until that changes, there's nothing to talk about. And I'm sure, I'd love to hear your take on this. This is really disturbing numbers here.
Look, I will not defend support of terrorist attacks. I would say the following. First of all, again, as you said, those numbers, I wasn't able to verify them. It was one publication that I saw, but I'm not sure it's
numbers
grounded.
are relevant. In fact, they're paying them all the way.
Yeah, let's make the debate is in principle. Support for prisoners in the Palestinian society is part of their defining national.
It's not for prisoners.
Again, there it says the 50% is for prisoners and their families.
No, for the terrorists.
No.
Even if the terrorist was killed, the family still gets money.
That's true, but most of the money goes to prisoners, and there's a huge amount of Palestinian prisoners in Israeli jail. Most of them are not, well, depends how you define terrorism attacks. Many of them are either through a stone or were just arrested because of something they said, and so on and so forth. I don't think they'll be able to continue with this for a long time, even regardless of whether they're right or wrong or whatever, the way they see it. I think that, as you said, the world and Netanyahu did a good job in putting a spotlight on this, and they'll have to change. By the way, I should say that support for Jewish terrorists in Israel, you have an organization that does that. It's called Choneinu. It gets tax exempt from the Israeli government, which is equal to support. This is a research that the Front for Defending the Israeli Democracy, whom I happen to be one of the founders, researched that and found it and published it. And it was a big story in the Israeli news. Also problematic. And
one second. Choneinu is not. Choneinu didn't. Whether I agree or not, they're not paying prize money.
What do you mean prize money? They supported families of Jewish terrorists.
What they did was families of Jews who were guilty of crimes, whatever they might have done. Again, it might have been physical as well. We're talking families.
We're talking about
one second. Let me just
burnt alive a Palestinian 16-year-old.
Not at all. Listen, not
for sure.
No,
that's part of our findings.
That's not who we're talking about at all. But they were not giving prize money. We're talking about families of people who were guilty of crimes. We're talking about families who are helping them eat. They're not budget, not prize money. There's no prize money here.
What's the difference?
Well, because when you give it, I'll tell you the difference. The difference, the PA is saying a terrorist who murders and then is killed, not put in jail, the family gets X amount of thousands of dollars a month as prize money for the action. That's not what Choneinu does.
They supported the families.
No. They stated as prize money.
Really, I suggest that if you think that's wrong, then both of them are wrong.
No, again, Choneinu doesn't give prize money.
And there is a difference that Choneinu is not a. So a new poll found that 9% of Americans support the neo-Nazi ideology, according to a poll that was published yesterday. I'm sorry, I can't give the who did the poll, but it was published at least in Israel, in some Israeli outlets. You didn't like the fact that they said that equals to 22 million Americans, so we won't use that digit. But 9% of the people who were surveyed, and at least according to the people who made the poll, said that's a segment or a.
It's a worrisome segment, no matter how much the number is. I mean,
right. If it's 9%, if it's 5%,
if
it's
1%,
worse.
It doesn't matter. The fact that it's growing is scary.
We talked about it a bit in the beginning of the show. To me, there are several things here. First, the fact that I think you cannot dispute that all these groups that used to be marginal gained a new energy and a feeling that after the Trump victory was theirs. I'm not sure that it's true politically, but definitely that's how they see it.
I don't know. I haven't spoken to them. I can't tell you how they see it. But
No, for sure. There's a rise of these people who are marching.
no, the only reason you saw them on TV, that's why we know about them. Who is responsible for that exposure is a different story, but that's not...
The anti-Semitic incidents since Trump was elected, the public marches.
What anti-Semitic are we talking about?
For instance, this week in Brandeis University, there was a bomb threat.
Okay, that's connected to Trump because...
Since Trump was elected, there is a rise in the self-confidence of those groups, such as the white suprematists, the KKK, the neo-Nazis.
Antifa?
Also, because whenever you have this poll, then the other poll also, and again for Trump, although he pointed a finger yesterday towards the media, his message was he deleted the message that really annoyed everyone. The fact that he said these are two equal sides. The neo-Nazis are the same as the other side, and the person that was killed by a neo-Nazi in the Charlottesville incidents, he's equally...
no, that's not what he said.
He didn't say that, but he said there are two violent sides there.
So
and neo-Nazis, that's a special Nazis. I don't want to mix them neo. They're Nazis.
Okay, so here's again, we agree that the neo-Nazis, the KKK, and the white supremacists are horrible. They're garbage. You know, for the last 2 weeks I've been saying they owe an apology to the trees for stealing oxygen. They're garbage. They're human garbage. They're a sad excuse for human beings, okay? There's no argument between us, I think, at all. I think it belittles them when you put this on Trump. In other words, the point is they existed before. Trump has been in office, what, for 6 months now? To say that this was born or they got more confidence now, the only reason that we know about this, it was on TV. And the people, and again, by the way, there have been marches before the United States of America. These neo-Nazis.
For sure.
But the problem is, here's where here I think we think we disagree. In other words, I personally think when someone says, well, this is Trump, when Trump came out and made a clear statement, and again, I think he slipped up or didn't slip up, whatever you want to say in the first, he said, I'm against these neo-Nazis, against the KKK, white supremacists. They're not part of America. They're not part of the consent. He said it flat out. To continue claiming that he actually...
No, he said there are two sides.
No, that was the first, again, that was the first thing. Now, if you ask me, were there people in America who do not want General Lee's statues down who are not neo-Nazis? Yes, there are.
For sure.
There are, because historical
not
statues...
everybody wants a...
Again, we have statues...
It's problematic on its own.
I don't want to... Of course, I don't want to compare, because I don't think we have anything to compare in Israel, but...
So we're at the end of another show. And I know you have a special connection with Billy Joel, personal connection. Bill Joel did an amazing thing this week, demonstrating how sometimes an artist doesn't have to speak in order to
be clear,
to be very clear, right? And he put the yellow star in his suit in a concert in New York, which was a very strong message against neo-Nazis and
Billy Joel, I started playing piano because of Billy Joel. Eight years old, I went to his Glass Houses concert. He's always been a very straight man, and this was really an unbelievable sign of demonstration, really without saying a word. Really unbelievable person. He always has been, really. Before we finish the show, I have to say thank you to Stephanie, who sent me in a tie, and I have to wear it. It's just like the Israeli flag. So Stephanie, thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie.
All those watching here, we're here out of Tel Aviv, Israel, ILTV. Don't forget to share out with your friends and family the show, and we'll see you next week right here on ILTV. Have an awesome weekend, everyone.
Our viewers now will have the chance to listen to some of Billy Joel's music. We'll be here again next week from Tel Aviv. And until then, have a great weekend, and hope to see you all next week here from ILTV, Israeli Frenemies.
Shabbat Shalom, as we say in the country.
You know you can't hold